The big three. My wife is a nurse in an extremely busy hospital setting. About 3 years ago she started becoming good friends with this new male doctor at the hospital. At first, I don't care. My wife is the type of person that becomes friends with someone a minute after initially meeting them. However, it got to the point where a time or two just the two of them would go out for drinks after work. Okay, again whatever. I am jealous of course, since who wouldn't be, but whatever. However, it was also strange, since my wife hates going out with only a few people, never mind only one person. She played it off as well. We were the last two leaving at that time. Fast forward to a couple weeks ago, where she almost stayed the night at his place. He is married and his wife would have been there, instead of getting a hotel room if the snow piled up too much to drive home. Now, at this point I am thinking the worst. 1. Damn, they must really be BFF at work if he is throwing this offer her way. 2. Now I am thinking about all the stuff that I have noticed in the past. Texts between the two of them. How my wife jokes that they are each other's work spouses. I hate that term. How my wife thought it was funny that he joked that our kid she was carrying at the time she was pregnant was his. How they become good friends when my wife and I were going through a dry spell in the bedroom that led to a lot of every mini arguments over the little things that normally would be blown over. How she deletes the texts between the two of them, but I don't notice her doing that with other people. So now I am of course thinking the worst. And when I did get upset that she never even asked if I minded if she said at his place. But whatever, she never had to, as the snow never amounted to anything. She stated that she doesn't need permission and we are all adults, and that she wouldn't mind if roles were reversed since she would be more worried about my safety, never mind that it wasn't one or the other. Hotel. Also, they became good friends before he was even dating his current wife, so even nothing happened, or is happening, I can't help but think that my wife has had thoughts. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if my wife confesses in time that they kissed but nothing else happened, or even worse, and I can't believe I am at the point that I am thinking this. What I don't get is, why did this friendship start to begin with? What good comes from it? Especially since they get coffees together all the time, and I know a lot of the nurses probably think something is happening. Sorry for the long rant, but wondering what people think. Has anyone been in this situation before? Meeting spouse becomes friends with someone and at first you aren't thinking anything of it, but then you blindsided. See, I think that is nagging at me big time. Not that something happened. I really trust my wife that the red line to a physical affair isn't going to be crossed. But when they started their friendship, he was single. We had a dead bedroom, and I have seen his people online. He is your typical Grey's doctor you see on TV. In his 30 seconds and good looking. So, I always think it. He started on her unit. She probably talked to other nurses about how hot he is, which that's one thing, but then starts a friendship with him. I have started looking at her phone for evidence. Nothing concrete yet that shows nothing more than this guy being a good friend. Of course, I am not naive to think that doesn't mean anything. Right now, I am just waiting for the shoe to drop. A text, saying his name in bed, a photo saved on her phone, etc. She doesn't hide her phone at all. One thing too, she is never home late from work or goes out on a day off, etc. Of course, doesn't mean they don't or haven't used the on-call rooms at the hospital, etc. She knew what she can get away with. She knew I wasn't going to question, until it got too far, her being friends with a guy, other me being jealous. Hell, when she sends, she was going to stay at his place, while his wife is there. The first thing I thought of was how all her friends that are married wouldn't even have had a relationship with a male friend that got to that point, cause there is no way in hell their husbands would have been okay with them going out, just the two of them with drinks. So yeah, I see it now. Weeks later, it didn't take long for my suspicions to be confirmed. I found text messages between my wife and the doctor that were not appropriate for a married woman to be sending to another man. My heart sank as I read through the messages, feeling the betrayal deep in my bones. I confronted her about it, and she denied any wrongdoing. She tried to justify her actions by saying that they were just friends and that I was overreacting. But I knew better. I decided to file for divorce, and I made sure to take everything she held dear. I took the house, the car. I wanted her to feel the pain and betrayal that I felt when she decided to cheat on me emotionally. She begged and pleaded for forgiveness, but it was too late. The damage had been done, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I made sure that she paid for her mistake and that she never forgot the pain that she caused me. In the end, I found someone who truly loved me for who I was, and we started a new life together. My ex-wife is still struggling to move on from the divorce, and I'm sure that she'll always regret what she did. But as for me, I'm happy and content with the new life that I've built for myself. Story 2. The Bad Sleep. Me and my wife have been married 5 years now, together for 8. We have 2 children, one 6 and one 2, and she is pregnant with our third. We had an amazing marriage and a fantastic physical life until last year. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and it led to me losing my job, which was hard. My wife started working full-time to make up the money, but she was getting stressed with me due to my illness. This led to a crisis talk, and I agreed to change and sort myself out, and she said she would be more supportive. This was early 2021. Fast forward to April 2021 and we decided to give up smoking. She was prescribed a med. I couldn't take them due to my history of depression. After being on this med for 6 weeks, she changed from a loving wife into a non-physical monster, constantly in a mood. She barely spoke to me and had a constant frown. However, she was out drinking with friends almost every night off she had and drinking to excess. This went on till about September when I confronted her about it all and she said she wasn't happy and that she wanted another child. We sorted ourselves out and she got pregnant. However, the problems started again about a month ago. I confronted her again as it was hard for me living with someone I loved but who showed me no compassion or interest. She refused to talk to me face to face and instead insisted on leaving the house and conversing via text message. She basically said she is not happy anymore, my illness isn't improving, it was a mistake to get pregnant by me again, she doesn't think she wants the baby and she doesn't know if she wants to be married. I offered to go back into treatment, to really intensify efforts to find work, but she hasn't responded. I asked her if she was seeing someone else as she is showing almost all the signs of infidelity. Also, she has a male work friend who keeps cropping up everywhere. She goes over a friend's house to help and he's there. She goes for a drink with friends, he's there. He walks her home from her friends sometimes, even though it is a mile out of his way. He often texts her, nothing too suspicious, when he's out drinking and visits her in work. He refers to her as Miss Often and usually ends his texts. Facebook messages to her with a X. She has said there is nothing going on but has also said people have spoken about them before because of the way they are with each other. I can find no hard evidence but can't stop suspecting. Sorry to go on for so long, but once I started, I had to get it out. What can I do? Is it over? Firstly, I can't say for certain that the child is mine. We didn't sleep together as much as we did to conceive our first two, but that doesn't really mean too much. She doesn't drink now, but before the pregnancy it was all the time and it was always with her best friend, a guy her best friend was secretly seeing and the guy in question. Come to think of it, another time she went to a house party with these people and more. She texted me at midnight to say she was just leaving but didn't get home for 2 hours later. When I questioned her about this, she said her and her female best friend had stopped to chat in a playground and lost track of time. This was August 2021 and when my suspicions really started. I have access to her phone records but there is little texting between her and the OM. They do however work together a lot and have the same social circle, so it would be easy to communicate face to face. As for him having a wife or GF, I know he doesn't as I used to work with him too. I know where he lives and am even friends with him on Facebook. She woke up, she works nights, and we've not spoke yet. I'll try to answer some of the questions raised as best I can. As for how I could let her take so many liberties, I suppose it's just naivety and being too trusting on my part. It's hard to believe your partner could do such things. Also, someone asked if I often go out. I used to, until she complained after the birth of our first child that I was going out too much. I threw this back in her face when she was doing the same and she told me it's different now as she has a social life whereas she didn't before. It boils down to me being far too beta in this marriage. I realize that now. I'm sick of her making out all our problems are my fault. I'm doing my best to manage my problems via medication and therapy, but it's never enough. Finding work is never easy in a recession, especially when you were dismissed from your last job. Not my fault I was dismissed due to illness, but she still blames me. As for the other 2 kids being mine, I know they are. There is no doubt on that one. Also, she definitely wasn't pregnant before we tried for this latest one, as she did regular pregnancy tests whilst we were trying to conceive. I need to confront her about all of this, for my own sanity more than anything. Any tips on how to bring this up? I don't want her to go defensive and clam up. I want her to be honest, and if there is something physical going on I want her to tell me, as that will be the end. My last 2 relationships ended in me being cheated on. Really should have learned to be less trusting by now. I know I'm an idiot, and she has said she would never do that and would leave me first. But now she is taking about leaving and displaying all these signs. I'm wondering if she is trying in a weird kind of way to not hurt me by keeping this all secret. I don't know, confused and really have no one to talk to. I tried having a conversation with her last night, but to no avail. She just won't talk to me and keeps saying she isn't comfortable talking face to face as she finds it difficult. I need to have this out with her before I explode, but I keep finding myself doubting whether I am right to. I have also considered phoning her best friend, we are on speaking terms, and straight out asking her if she knows anything about my wife's behavior. I'm sure this probably isn't a good idea though. My mind is sort of all over the place at the moment. She has me really thinking it is all me and it's my failings as a husband, father and provider that have put our marriage in this state. But at the same time, I can't get rid of the gut feeling. There is something else that I have not mentioned as it makes me sound crazy, but I would appreciate advice and thoughts. On the 30th of December, she went over her friend's house to help with college work. Her friend is a mature student. Later in the evening, I texted her to see how she was and she replied fine, and that the suspected OM had turned up out of the blue after work. I was annoyed with this. A few hours later, she came home, didn't say hello and went straight to the bathroom. She was in there for about 15 minutes, didn't flush, and then came and sat on the sofa. I noticed that her hair was messy at the back, may have been windy out, and also, she had marks up the sleeve of her coat that were not there when she left. I asked about her night and asked if the other man was arranged to be there, as she hadn't mentioned him before. She said no, he just turned up. The next day, however, she mentioned she had spoken to him about going over her friends and that they were having dinner, and he said he may well go too. Now, going back to the night in question, before she went to bed, I asked how she got home and she said he walked her home, going about a mile out of his way to do so. I mentioned this was odd and she said that he liked walking. After she went to bed, I went in the kitchen and noticed her underwear was in the basket. I didn't search for them, but there were fresh, visible, sticky white stains on the gusset. She is pregnant, and women do discharge, but coupled with going straight to the toilet when she got home, not flushing and leaving a wad of paper in the bowl, my suspicions went into absolute overdrive. Am I crazy? I can't afford a semen detection kit and don't want to wait any longer. She does text a lot, but I have access, without her knowledge, to her itemized online account. She doesn't text him that often. Plus, due to previous suspicions, she knows I checked her phone in the past, and I think that is why they don't text each other a lot. I also have access to her Facebook, which she knows about, so there is nothing going on there. As for GPS and car, she doesn't drive. Putting one on her phone would be hard as I rarely get my hands on it and I really can't afford a Pi. She rarely uses the computer. I think my previous suspicions have tipped her off, and I'm still saying if she is cheating, it's being handled in a very secretive way. We still haven't spoken since she told me she doesn't know if she wants to be together anymore, and things are only getting more strained, which is why I need to get this off my chest to her ASAP. But she won't talk to me. Am I wrong to think it's suspicious she doesn't want to talk face to face but will behind a phone? Comment: this definitely sounds like an affair. The guy isn't showing up everywhere she is for nothing. However, no one has really addressed you yet. I think you do need to get to the bottom of this affair and stop being naive, but I think you need to improve yourself too. What is making you depressed? Also, what about a job? Are you looking every day, or just content that the recession makes it difficult to find a job? Where I live, Texas, people find jobs every day. I am not saying she should be able to sit home and not work. I advocate both parties working, but you aren't going to look that attractive to her sitting home and not working and being depressed. Does she seem to be still attracted to you? I, too, wonder about this baby, and if you are the father, I would definitely suggest a paternity test when the baby is born and finding out what's going on in the meantime. I bet you find she is having an affair with this guy. It's pretty blatant. But also, work on your circumstances. No woman wants a husband who has been out of work for an extended period of time and is not making an effort. And a spouse's depression is really hard to deal with. I'm not saying she is right in having an affair, but I'm wondering if her attraction for you decreased due to your lack of working and depression, and that is where this guy was able to swoop in. OP responds: I already feel as low as I can about being unable to provide for my family and the fact my wife has to work all the time. Thing is, she never engages with me about how she's feeling and has never told me up until 2 days ago, after all this behavior, that I am causing her stress and misery. If this is the case, and there is no affair, then telling me sooner would have really helped. Also, don't think I have exhausted her support. There is no support. She even complained about my therapy interfering with her sleep after working night shifts. Now, I know this will make some disappointed, but I had the talk with her tonight. I'm sorry, but I couldn't wait any longer, living in such a cold, distant environment. I outlined everything that I have mentioned in this thread. Her reaction: dismissed it all. Told me I was making more of events than there was. I was jealous and accused me of diverting blame. She then cried for an hour and hasn't spoke to me since. Think I might have messed up here. Comment: Jesus Christ, dude. Your wife is sleeping around on you and she doesn't even hold enough respect for you to treat you as decently as she would a nanny. A nanny is what you are, sitting at home watching the kids while some dude's repeatedly banging your wife, and you deal with her BS lies when she gets home. Grow some balls, get all the kids tested after you file for divorce, and kick your wife out. Take some DNA samples before you kick her out in case she takes them. It's always possible to be making more out of it that is there. However, she is showing all the red flags for cheating. There are some links on this site you need to read about the cheater's script, and some recommendations on what you can do to catch it. Look, it's black and white. In a world full of gray, this other man isn't a friend to your marriage. There is a reason why we suspect infidelity. It's a primal instinct. What cheater won't lie about their affairs? It's an addiction they can't lose. And to top it off, if it wasn't true and not a big deal, why did she lose it afterwards? It's because the guilt is overwhelming her. Get those panties evaluated, especially if the two of you aren't sleeping together. OP responds: head is really messed up at the moment. Okay, so a bit more info. When I spoke to her last night about all this, she was, as I said, dismissive of my claims, saying it was in my head and I was making more of it. She emphasized that he is a friend. There is nothing there. She feels no attraction to him at all, etc. She even denied some true facts about her behavior. During our talk, though, she did tell me she is constantly stressed, and she goes out, helps her friends to escape from her own problems. I told her this is not healthy and what is a husband for if not to help her with her issues. She replied she didn't want to add to my problems. I know this sounds silly in light of everything going on here, but do you think there is a chance that I am making more of this than there is? Any chance there is no affair, even on an emotional level? She is acting very much like someone who is depressed, and I have mentioned that in the past, though she never goes to see a doctor about it. I don't know, feel incredibly helpless and confused. As for claiming unemployment, I did that, but as she works, I am only entitled to 6 months' worth under UK law. I want to work, but there is so little out there where I am. As for confronting the other man, I don't feel there is enough evidence yet, and it may be more harmful at this stage. I know it was stupid to confront her, but she was already talking about leaving, and I don't know, I just felt I had to get it out. Sort of like I wanted her to know that I knew something was fishy in our relationship, in the stupid belief she would come clean about it. She's texted me today from work to tell me she will be writing everything down that she needs to tell me and giving it to me later. I would prefer a conversation, but it just won't happen. Not really looking forward to the contents of the letter, but at the same time, for better or worse, I just want all this mess over with so we can move on, either together or apart. I was depressed before these problems arose, but a lack of support from the woman I loved did amplify them to some great extent. However, besides anxiety, I have been much improved for months, which is why I don't fully buy her "you've not made an effort to get better" speech. I told her plainly last night that she is the most important person in my life, and as her husband I should be in hers. No other person, especially a man, should be more important to her than me, because that's how I feel about her. She made no comment on this, and there was no offer to scale back friendships, etc. We'll have to wait to see what this letter says tonight. Can I ask a stupid question? Actually, 2 stupid questions. Firstly, does anyone think there is nothing going on and it's all a very coincidental misunderstanding? I'm in denial, I know. Secondly, she has said that she may stay over her toxic friend's house tonight after dropping the letter off. Only may, not will. If she does, I know where her friend lives. Would it be a good idea to go snoop if she says she is staying there? Yes, I'm going to have to wait and see what this letter says. As for getting caught while spying on her friend's house, that really isn't an issue. Due to its location and window placements, it would be really easy. Just worried it would be a bit too stalker-like. The only reason I would want to snoop is to see if she is actually there, and if she is, whether he is too. She has texted me again to tell me that she will be coming home tonight, and also added that I really upset her last night. I replied that it needed to be said and out in the open, as her behavior was unacceptable. She replied, and I quote, "Okay, fair point. Wait until you've read my letter and I promise I will talk to you face to face about it after. I have to go now as I need to get dinner ready, but I will be back later tonight with an update and a summary of the letter." I know the letter is supposed to be personal, but that's the beauty of anonymous online forums, I suppose. And here may be some massive red flags that I do not see in the letter. Update: the moment of truth. She came home, we ate, and then I took the letter in the bedroom to read alone. Felt more comfortable that way. So, the letter started in the worst way. There is no one else. I'm not interested in anyone else, and these suspicions you've had are in your head. There is nothing going on. As you can imagine, that's not exactly what I was wanting to read, an overemphasis on denying an E or P. However, the letter went on to concede she has not been a good wife, she has taken me for granted, but that I also had to shoulder some of the blame, which I do. She was unable to explain losing an interest in bonding and merely stated it wasn't high on her agenda. Plus, she doesn't feel comfortable as she has put weight on this last year. After reading the letter, I went in to talk to her. I told her I wasn't going to argue with the letter, as arguing gets you nowhere. I said we have a very clear choice. We have complete honesty and transparency from now on. She acknowledges that whilst I don't own her, I do expect to be the most important man in her life, as she is the most important woman in mine. She has stopped socializing with other men beyond work, and certainly not going around their house with or without other friends. We promise to spend more time together as a couple, and we try to rekindle the physical side to our relationship. Either we make the above changes, or we go to a solicitor and file for divorce, as we will only find ourselves in this position again, and it's not good for either of us or the children. She agreed to all of this on the proviso that I go back to the doctor about my problems, which I will. I don't have any hard evidence something happened between her and the OM, only gut instinct, and that's not enough to go on. She now knows what is expected and what will not be tolerated, and I've made her aware of the consequences of violating this agreement. I will still spy for a while and will try to get tracking software on her phone for a while to make sure. But it does feel like a corner has been turned and she is ready and wanting to reconcile. I'm sure a few may think I've handled this wrong, but only time will tell. She is by no means off the hook in terms of surveillance. However, as far as she is concerned, I am convinced and satisfied there is nothing going on. As Crossbar said, this should lead her into a false sense of security and confidence, and if she is still having contact with the OM, I will find out. She has no idea I have access to her itemized phone bill online. She also does not know I have her Facebook password. The reason I did not demand her Facebook password is it gives her a place to communicate, without knowing I have access to it. I've made it clear that she is not to socialize with him and that I am coming on any and all work parties, nights out from now on. If we can't get a babysitter and I can't go, then neither can she. As for implementing complete NC, it is difficult. She can't quit her job, and without a confession or physical proof of affair, I can't demand that she tell her boss to make sure they are on different shifts, as they would want to know why. Although, if there was physical evidence, they would both be fired due to the nature of the job. Secret relationships are strictly forbidden. As the days passed, I could feel the tension easing between us. We made a concerted effort to spend more time together, going on walks, taking weekend trips, and just talking. We rediscovered the joy in each other's company, and it felt like we were falling in love all over again. Despite my initial skepticism, I had to admit that our decision to be completely honest and transparent had been the key to our reconciliation. We talked openly about our feelings and concerns, and we worked together to overcome our problems. I also began to see a change in her behavior. She was more attentive and affectionate, and I could tell that she was truly committed to making our marriage work. I still kept a close eye on her, but I no longer felt the need to spy on her every move. In time, our relationship grew stronger and more loving than ever before. We both knew that we had been given a second chance, and we were determined not to waste it. We continued to work on our issues, but we also took the time to appreciate each other and the life we had built together. Looking back on that difficult time, I realized that the moment of truth had been a turning point in our marriage. It had forced us to confront our problems head-on, and it had given us the opportunity to rebuild our relationship from the ground up. In the end, it had made us stronger, more resilient, and more committed to each other than ever before. My comment: I think if your W had done some introspection and brought some of the details on suspicious activities to light, might have been easier to swallow. The fact that she told you that it was all in your head, definite deflection there. Wouldn't hurt for you to make some random visits to see her at work at differing times of her shift. No need to worry, you will find out your answer shortly. The affair is either real or it's your fantasy.